Alright guys, so we're starting today's video in a little bit of a different place than usual, in the backseat of the Jag, which is a lovely place to be, but if you've clicked on this video, you're obviously here for a specific reason, and it would be that right there. The third brake light on these is known for basically falling off of the window. It's mounted to these little metal brackets, which over time are known to fail and actually come off of the glass. It's a slick design, it doesn't have like a little pedestal that it sits on or anything like that, but because they're relying on adhesives to hold the high mount brake light to the window, that is a potential failure point, and you guys will come to learn that I don't trust adhesives at all, but it is what it is when you're dealing with glass. So mine, I'm going to kind of show you, had been reattached when I first bought the car. They had done an interesting method of doing it that did work briefly, but it did fall off at some point, and rather than trying to just kind of redo the same little bodge, I've decided that I'm going to try and do it properly. So got some cool stuff ahead. Definitely follow along, and hopefully this could actually be kind of some exciting news as well for people who are trying to do this very same repair. So keep on watching, and hopefully this is educational. So to show you what I'm talking about here, this is what I'm dealing with. So as you can see, the high mount brake light has fallen off of the window, and basically, let's see if I can get it to focus because it is relatively dark there. You see this goopy mess here. So essentially, it was actually a creative idea. They had used some sort of silicone or adhesive and basically packed it into the slot here where the normal bracket would mount, and then basically stuck it to the window. It appears to have worked for quite a while. It actually held for quite a long time, but it did eventually let go because there was really nothing inside of this slot on the back side of that holding it up against the window. So I looked at scraping those off and maybe using the same method of just kind of gooping it back on there with some adhesive, but again, that's not necessarily the way of doing it correctly, and that's kind of what we're all about here at the channel, is trying to do things as right as possible. So let me show you what we're looking at here. So you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, some people seem to actually have quite a lot of trouble finding the clips that go into the high mount brake light. Reading on the forums and things like that, it seems like a lot of people, I don't think you can necessarily buy them straight, maybe from a dealership possibly, but I haven't found a place online where you can just go buy the proper brackets themselves. And a lot of cars that are in the junkyards are also already missing their third brake light, or they've had the same issue where years ago the brackets either broke or fell off, and they've done a similar thing to what you see, so they don't have them. Now, I was actually fortunate, and I found several vehicles at the junkyard, and only one of them had the proper brackets. And you can see by the profile here, basically this smaller tab is what slides into the clips that you saw on the high mount brake light. And then this larger piece here, which still has the little dots of adhesive in it, that's what's glued, like this surface you can see is what's glued up to the window. And then this little tab here, little point, is what basically clicks into place to hold the third brake light in place, basically. So that being said, I realized that this video might be useful for a how-to, but it doesn't necessarily help people with actually sourcing the part, right? What good is showing you how to do it right if you can't get the piece itself? So I'm going to show you something that I'm kind of a little proud of. And basically I decided, instead of trying to use these ones that I found, even though I did find them, what if I could solve the problem of them not being available and make my own? So this is my 3D printed prototype, and actually this is not the very first one, this is the third iteration of it, which has a little more friendly mating surface. I've made sure that the dimensions are correct, they do fit nicely into the tail light. You do still have the locking tab and everything like that, and they function pretty much as they should. So basically, I decided, okay, sure, I have the factory metal ones, etc., but my mentality was, if I could supply these to the market for significantly cheaper than what you'd be able to find the metal ones for, I probably have to beta test them first before I start selling them to other people, right? So on my car, I'm going to test my very own 3D printed brackets and see if they stand up to the job. So essentially, I don't see why they wouldn't. It's a very light duty job, but who am I to say, hey, this is the solution if I didn't use it myself, right? So we're basically going to go through the procedure. I'm going to remove the old adhesive from the back window there, and then basically I'm going to walk you through what adhesives I'm using, how I'm lining everything up, etc. So stay tuned. This is going to be kind of cool, and fingers crossed it all works out, right? got to admit, I am pretty proud of these little things. It may seem like a really simple part, but I did all the 3D modeling myself. I did the multiple renditions myself, tested them, made sure they were strong, made sure they clipped in nicely. And, you know, it's nice being able to take something from scratch, take all the measurements and everything, and render it in digital, and then physically print it. And, you know, it was a lot of learning and a lot of fun at the same time. It just feels really good to actually make something that could possibly help the Jag community. So I know it's a small part, but you never know, right? If there's more stuff that's tough to find like this, shoot it to me in a comment, and maybe it's something we could design and make as well. So I know that little pieces on these things break all the time, right? So as much as this is what was broken on mine and quite a few other people's cars, maybe you guys know about something that I don't, and I'd love to look into it. So it's all coming back to me now. The adhesive appears to be window adhesive, the same stuff that they put a big thick bead of around the glass when they put a new window in a vehicle. So I remember now from repairing the subwoofer, which is a video you should check out as well, that I'd found a bunch of broken glass in the back there, leading me to believe that the rear window had been replaced at some point. I bet when they replaced the rear window, they either discarded the clips or the clips had been broken with the window, and the people reinstalling them basically didn't have a way to put the third brake light back in place, so they just took big globs of their adhesive and stuck the thing to the window. The problem is that is extremely strong stuff, so I poked around in there a little bit to see if I could get it to just come away from the window. It's not complying, so I'm going to work with, I think, a razor blade and see if I can cut it away to thin it down to almost nothing. The good news is the kind of black surface that it is mounted to on the inside, even if I scratch that a little, it appears that there is a second black layer on the, like in the glass itself, that will hide any of those blemishes. So it's not like when I scratch that, it's going to show on the outside of the vehicle. So I'm gonna kind of work at that a little bit and find a method that works, and then show you guys what has been most effective at removing the adhesive. One day I will have a shop where I don't have to trudge from one diagonal corner of my property to the other diagonal corner of my property to go get a tool, to come back to the car. It gets old pretty fast. So I did a little bit of experimentation and basically found that, you know, with this type of adhesive specifically, physical removal is really the only way. It doesn't seem like chemicals will really break this stuff down, which is a good thing because, you know, it is used to seal windshields. So the razor blade has been the most effective method, and I started out basically just using a simple one like this with my fingers. I was able to kind of get a little start, but I realized the angle was not very friendly. You know, it's very difficult to kind of hold your hand at the angle down the window with your fingers flush to the window, still have a good grip on the blade. So I went and actually bought a little scraper tool, which I'll show you here in a second, and it has been significantly more effective. So we'll cut around and show you. And as you can probably tell, we are now on day 2. I fiddled around with it some and then ended up buying the tool this morning. So basically, let you take a look at what it is, but it's a pretty cost-effective way to save a lot of time. And here it is. So basically, it's just a simple, cheap handle scraper. But as you can see, it holds the blade at a little bit of an angle there, which is the key. It really makes this job significantly easier. It just uses the regular kind of straight blade style little flat razors. And basically, this one's neat. It has a little handle that you can unscrew and you can store extra blades in there. I think I paid about $10 for this thing with a few blades. So I'll show you how I've been working with this stuff, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to kind of move on to the removal of the goop and then get into the more fun stuff. Okay, so as we mentioned before, this is the adhesive, and I've started working on removing this. If I can keep my camera focused here. There we go. So basically, I've just been taking the scraper like this and working my way as flush to the window as I can with the blade, and basically just scraping. And it actually seems like this black painted surface is pretty resilient. There we go. So that's the goop. And you can see where they had pressed it into the third brake light and it kind of molded itself in. So it did an okay job holding it, but I think where it failed is just that it didn't have a little T-shape here that the light could really hold on to. You know, it was just a nub. So yeah, that has honestly got 99% of that off. A little bit more scraping and I think I'll be able to get the last of that off. I get a little bit more of a flat surface here. Look at that, there we go. And then we'll work on the other side. So I should note that if you do have a tinted window, be careful of this nub, or if you have like a raised piece like this on your scraper, because that is, an aggressive point. So if you push that against your window tint, you may damage it. So just, I forgot to mention that in the previous clip. Just be cautious with that, because you don't want to risk damaging your window tint. In general, be careful with it against your glass. You don't want to make too much of a pressure point. Not that I think you'll necessarily blow the window out, but it's just good practice to try and keep that not touching or only lightly touching the window. So figured that was an important note. Okay, as you can see, we have the lumps of adhesive scraped off here. So I've managed to get most of it off, but I've actually left a very thin amount of the adhesive on there. I'm going to explain why in just a second here as well. But we're looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way this has come out. So in my research on what adhesives to use for this, I basically was finding cases of people who have done this job before and looking at what types of adhesives they'd used. Seen everyone, talking about very different things. Honestly, I didn't have one concise answer. Several people mentioned they had used like silicone-based adhesives. Some people mentioned that they had used like the windshield-style adhesives like what we saw here. And then on top of that, I also saw people saying that they had used the same type of adhesive you'd use to remount a rearview mirror. And initially I liked that idea quite a lot because it is designed to adhere to glass, things like that. So I actually was at the auto store with that kit in my hand, and I second-guessed myself and flipped the thing over. And there's a couple of points that made me not decide to go that path. One, it doesn't say if it's designed only to work with like the slick clear glass or if it would work with like the flat black like you see there. And the other thing is it very specifically said do not use with plastic as far as like the actual, normally you'd use it to mount the little button on the window that your rear view mirror clips onto, which you can see in our F-150 rear view mirror replacement if you want to see a metal one. But it says if you have a plastic one of those buttons, not to use that adhesive. And of course, harkening back to earlier in this video, I'm going to be trying my 3D printed plastic high mount brake light clips, so I can't use that adhesive. So I found something else, which I think may do the trick here. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what I've picked up, and hopefully this is the right stuff. So basically, I found this super weather strip adhesive from 3M, and it reminded me of basically the most similar stuff to what they had used to install the windshield. So it says it's fast drying, which is great because I don't want to have to leave the third brake light propped up for a week for this stuff to cure. And it also has extremely strong bond strength. And you can see that it is designed to work with kind of more wide range of materials. And, so if it can adhere rubber to painted metal, things like that, I think this could be the right stuff. So I think this is what we're going to go with as far as giving this, a shot. So basically we're going to kind of put a thin amount of this on the back of the clips once they are attached into the third brake light, I should mention, because that'll make sure we locate them correctly. And I'm actually going to have a second set of hands in the form of someone standing outside of my car so that they can help me with the alignment of the third brake light. They can kind of make sure that I have it centered and also rotationally correct so that I don't end up with a third brake light sitting like this. So basically, we'll walk you through the steps and how we do it, and I'll also kind of report back probably in the comments, that way we can release this video for you a little bit later just to tell you if I've had any concerns with this adhesive or not. But I feel pretty good. I think this stuff's going to work. By the way, you should probably subscribe. Okay, so I have James here now. He's going to give me a hand with the alignment of the third brake light. So I'm going to show you how I put the assembly together in preparation for gluing it. I'm going to show you how to kind of keep it in place as well. And then we'll show you from the outside of the car what we're watching for to make sure we get the thing lined up. So we'll jump right in. Okay, so I showed you guys the clips earlier. Oop, as I drop it. So I'm now going to actually insert these clips into the high mount brake light because that'll guarantee the alignment and spacing is correct. So rather than trying to glue these one by one, hope it all lines up, and then try and click this thing on after, I'm going to put the whole assembly together, then apply the adhesive to these, then put that up against the rear window here. So I'm going to clip these in now. All right, so we're going to insert the clip, and you can see which way around we have the fin. It's kind of pointing towards the back here. And so basically, you just slide it into the body like I've got it here, and then clip it in place like that. And you heard it click in. That was the tab basically clicking into the little groove that's in there. So that's now ready to go. And now I'm going to clip this one in the same way on this side. And there we go. That was a nice reassuring click. I like that. So now we're going to apply the adhesive to these two surfaces here. And then at that point, we're going to be ready to kind of stick it up against the windshield. And James will help me get the alignment and the rotation from the outside of the car so he can make sure it looks nice and straight and isn't all wonky. So as you can see, we're just using a simple block of 2x6 here. Obviously 2x4 would do just fine as well. And we just have a little folded piece of cardboard there just to make up the extra distance. And that's keeping it just pressed against the glass. And it doesn't take much, it's a pretty light piece. So I'm just gonna double check it from the outside, but James gave me the thumbs up, so we should have a nice alignment on this thing. And hopefully this thing will tack up soon. Okay guys. So I've let the adhesive sit for about 24 hours now, just a little bit less to be honest. And I guess here's the moment of truth. We're gonna pull the 2x4 away and see if the thing supports its own weight. I have a good feeling that it probably will from everything that I've read, but you know, you never know with these sorts of things, right? So let's give it a go. All right, everyone. So back in the front seat where you usually see me in these videos, but it looks like we have a great success. We have a third brake light right back where it's supposed to be. And, you know, I love simple little fixes like this, honestly. They're quick, they're rewarding, and, you know, there's a little bit of nervousness going into it and kind of experimenting, but I will say that this one has been a pretty good success. So I'm going to drive the car around for a while, and if we have anything to report, like if we do have an issue further down in the future, we'll definitely leave a comment in the description of the video. If it's anything significant, we may even update the video itself. But it's a pretty mild part, honestly. I'm not too worried about the risk of a failure. It's not supporting much weight. It is very strong adhesive. The clips are pretty well made, so I don't see those being a failure point. So I'm pretty optimistic this is going to be a one and done sort of deal. So if this was helpful to you guys, I know we always say it, but please do like the video. Please do subscribe. If you know anyone with the same issue, share it with them. Seriously, this could be an easy way for them to fix up their ride as well. And let us know in the comments if you think these clips might be useful to you as well. We are genuinely considering making and producing and selling these things to make it a little easier to access than trying to find the factory ones, which are becoming pretty hard to find. So yeah, if it would be useful to you, let us know in the comments, and we'd be happy to see if we can turn some of these things out for you guys as well. So thank you again as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.